The Beef and Barnzy Show, brought to you by Bowlersmart.com, trusted by bowlers around the world since 2004. By Lightning Strikes Bowl, home of Bowlers Mart Pro Shop. By Platinum Ford, drive the difference. By Fire Lake Bowling Center, 24 state-of-the-art lanes. By True Grit Coatings, drive on our passion. By Roll to Grip, king of them all. By 900 Global, striking worldwide.
Good morning and welcome back to the Beef and Barnzy Show and some real talk reviews for our core group right now. This is going to be a good one. You're going to get to hear a lot about bowling balls and ask a ton of questions, and we're going to answer as many as we can in the next hour. So, as usual, I'm joined by the expert extraordinaire and he's married to the fantasy guru, Stu Williams. How are you, Beef Stu?
Pretty good. Yeah. The NFL season starts tonight, so we're officially rounding the corner towards winter. I understand that it's technically fall or whatever we want to call it, but whatever. Football's starting tonight, so that's good. It was entertaining. Pretty stellar game to start with as well, the Rams and the Bills.
It's kind of been the pattern the last couple of to rematch the Super Bowl matchup to kick off the next year, which is, I don't know that that's particularly fair, but it certainly makes strength of schedule a balancer right off the gate.
Yeah. So, here is one of my friends in Phoenix. They are diehard Buffalo fans, so they're
she's also
your jersey.
Brandon Kyle fans though too, isn't she?
No, not really.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. What's going on? So, all right. Well, I'm in a good mood today. My fantasy draft went okay last night. I think Chris did okay. So what we're going to do is for the comment that entertains me the most today, I'm going to give away a free ball. Oh, here we go. Here we fucking go.
Oh, Simon big time just the last two times we asked him, so I didn't know.
I mean, mate, if you've got nothing, I guess you probably haven't drilled the balls though, so it doesn't help. If you wanna log on, mate, just send me a text. I'll send you a link. You can come on and talk about the hyped solid. So anyway, I'm going to give away a ball to the person who gives me the most humor. There is a caveat. You have to be in the United States. I know it sucks, but I'm not dealing with having to send one to Timbuktu. Okay, Simon, sounds good. This is a strong contender for funniest comment of the day. The Lions winning the Super Bowl. Yeah, that's probably not going to happen. All right, so we'll give one of those away. You can have whatever you want.
So as Simon, as always, is welcome to come on the show anytime he likes. So all he has to do is pop in, automatically on. So
just send us a message, mate. If you got something to get up my chest.
I sent him the link, and the answer back is not sure naked from my bed is the best look. Yeah, probably not. Keep the covers on.
I believe Ryan's talking to you here. No, Ryan's trying to talk to me.
The worst part for you is that not only are you going to have to listen to Tina bitch, but also cry about how much we beat her by this year. So,
there you go. Simon, we'll even wear a Beef and Barnzy Show shirt.
He's got a special edition. So yes, and I am dressed for opening day of the season. I believe I have number
Barnes.
Well, the name's not right, but the number is. So this shirt, as well as some others, are available at Coolwick.
Yeah, there you go. You can actually access it by going on the Beef and Barnzy website, clicking on Chris's stuff, and it'll take you over. I say that, but I'm not even sure that's true.
No, but you can't. They do have it under NFL jerseys. This is just a Kansas City stock. So, how are we doing this morning? Let's get serious. I have a question for Barnes. I currently lost my bowling game, so what do I need to do?
Ask for directions.
That's true. You got, depending on what your area is, you find a coach there. Of course, good friends of the show. Go to markbakerbowling.com. Follow the instructions. Send him a video. That's what we do. That's what Ryan does. Well, I don't know if Stu does. I do it. No, you have done it. Actually, not too long ago. So we both do the same thing. That's how we get. Tuned up out here. Oh, and look who's coming in from the teep sheets. Yeah, you know what your record is this year, honey? Zeros. It's less than your ball weight. So.
Oh my God. He Chris used the word honey. That's going down well.
Sweet.
Sorry, we don't have an HR department.
No, obviously we well, we did, but we fired him. So.
Oh God, yeah. It seemed like you lost it halfway through the weekend, to be honest.
It was pretty good for a while, I gotta say, and it was pretty good against us. I don't remember you missing anything against us. I mean, it's a lot of pressure dragging Git around, though, so bowled awfully good. It's fun to watch you guys bowl.
Yeah. This one's good. Stu winning the Masters in Thunderbolt this year. Lol. Again, I'm giving away the ball.
Yeah, if you're going to give it, you're going to better off trolling me than Stu if you probably want to win this thing. So, you need to send the Baker's website. AAJJ spent a little time out in the new training center. He flew out there recently and bowled fairly good over in the Pan Am Games.
Pan Am qualifiers. Pan America champion.
Pan American, not the Pan Am Games. Yeah, the Pan American qualifiers. Yeah.
Potato. They got to go to Brazil, which is cool because Brazil is one of the few places other than Australia you can go and be in the south of the equator. Fun story. There's like I was talking to Frankie about this, and Frankie's like going, well, I go, I've literally never been south of the equator. And Frankie goes, have you not been here? And I go, well, yes, and that's not south of the equator. And Frankie's like, huh? And yeah. It's kind of weird. Anyway, that's my weird fact of the day, that like there is literally nothing south of the equator except like Brazil, Argentina, and like Australia and New Zealand. Like basically everything you've ever heard of north of the equator.
Huh. So. All right, Mark Hendricks comments a lot out of all the new releases, and that's part of what we'll talk about. But long-time bowling fan, first-time commentator. What's your favorite? What's your favorite one so far?
If we're going from Bowl Expo up to now, I would say probably, I mean, almost certainly the Infinite Physics. I feel like it gives me a really versatile ball that I can use on a bunch of different things. So,
yeah, that's been the kind of across the board. It may not be everyone's best one, but it's in everybody's top two. It seems like right now, and so doesn't matter the styles, doesn't matter the ball speeds. It seems to hit that middle ground where it's long enough, it hooks enough in oil, it's back end enough that a little polish, a little surface.
That brings up this question from Dylan. I haven't because I don't really need it, but Chris has.
So. I have, and 1,000 with React to Shine, which is kind of where I've landed with it, a relatively new 1,000, and it's where I led qualifying in Hammond with that, and then a dull one on the fresh. So I used a shinier one on the burn block. which isn't really that much burn on the senior tour. But so yeah, I think it clears the lane a little better, and it makes it a little more angular down lane, which Stu can do that on his own. Typically, the balls need to help me out a little bit more. So.
Yeah, I think for me, the only time I'll probably use a shiny one of those is on tour when I want a really small gap filled. Otherwise, now the reality check is kind of the sideways move from that, and then
And you know how that ball, you know how I know that ball is good now? You're actually calling it by the right name.
Yeah. That's kind of like someone was asking me about it. I don't really see it as the ball down. I just see it as the ball across. It's just more angular.
Thanks, Travis. Thanks for joining us. Another football question. I wonder if Washington will change their name again. I didn't even notice the last two times, really, to be honest. So,
well, they're called the Commanders now.
Yeah, well,
baseball's the hardest one for me.
They're called the L's
because I don't care about baseball. So when I see it and they put something up, I'm like, I don't even know who that is. It's like I have as much chance of knowing some of the new baseball names, like because Cleveland changed their name. I can't even remember what to, but they changed their name, and it's like I really have to think about who that is. It's like hockey teams. It's like what? Who? Like, yeah. So anyway, let's should we pick what should we start with?
Champions. I was gonna.
Yeah, there it is. The Guardians. It sounds like the next Marvel movie, the Cleveland Guardians.
The Mighty Ducks. That's
right. Should we start with which one should we start with? Supernova or Night Road? And anyway, the board. I did the board today. Shout out to Oasis.
You'll probably have to explain it.
There's a song called Champagne Supernova, and the sign says it's a champagne supernova in the sky. And I did in the night.
Okay.
So sorry you're not cultured. I can actually hear Tina laughing that you that you didn't know. Because she gets very annoyed when people don't understand what her boards mean. And so now somebody didn't get mine. It's like made right. All right. Let's see which video comes up first, and then we'll start with that one. Supernova. Okay. So here we go. So this was on Mark Roth. I had the I've got the Supernova, and now this is the proton physics, as I figured that they would probably be the closest to, being as they've got I believe the same cover. So for me, the Supernova, I don't like it as much as I like the proton physics. I find it to be a little cleaner. I don't think its move is as decisive as the proton physics is for me. And I like a ball where I kind of know one spot that it's going to that it's going to stand up in one particular spot, and then I can manipulate off that. And for me, I found that the proton physics is more useful. I'm sure that it'll be different for everybody else because, that was a pretty good one, wasn't it?
Whoa.
Yeah. I did find that as I moved further left and rotated it more, that the Supernova was better, and it continued better than the proton physics did. But as you see,
real quick, to be clear, you want the proton. You're looking for this ball to fit as your number one earliest rolling ball, though, too, right?
Yeah. And I was just, and like I say, if you watch these last two shots, it gives you a good idea of what I was talking about. So for me, both the Nova and the proton physics, when I was playing around 15, were both pretty useful. I just have more historical faith, shall we say, in the proton physics. So I don't really need to replace it at that point. Once I started to move left, the Supernova was better than the Proton Physics. There was no doubt about that. It was more continuous. It didn't burn up as much because it's not quite as strong. But if you watch this shot here, this is why I don't really need the Nova that much. It was too lazy. And then I went straight into the Infinite Physics. And like, so for me, that gap, I can use the Proton Physics for longer than most other people because I can, like you talk about, I can get it through the front part of the lane. So when I make the move, I need a bigger jump than maybe what the Supernova would be for me. Now, I know that this is almost the exact opposite for you.
Well, yes and no, because I like the gem at my top end. I would agree that to play a little straighter and basically kind of have that slow arc move, and I like to see it a little closer to me than you do as well. But yeah, it doesn't overtake the gem in that space, but I like it awfully well as a ball underneath that, which is in between that and the infinite. Which for me, because of I read the front of the lane a little bit more than you do, a little more sensitive to it. I have more gaps up there in between which balls get through the front, and the infinite definitely gets through the front lane easier than the gem, the proton, or the supernova. So for me, I liked it. It's getting a little more lane shined as I go, and as that happens, I'm liking it more. Definitely smoother than the infinite. It's a ball in between there for sure. The gem I don't get to use on league or house type patterns hardly ever. So this would probably become more of a first ball out on a lot of things for me.
It's more of that league piece for you.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I did use it though at both the Ironman and Longview, which were neither one were particularly high scoring.
Yeah, I mean, I did when I just 1 second. When I used the that cover originally, I actually did prefer it polished. So I may well polish that Supernova to give it a see where it fits off, say, my shiny reality. Because I don't really carry a reality dull anymore. I kind of just use that in that shiny gap now. I think it's just you go back and forth. Like for me, I kind of like changing it up a little bit. And it wasn't like I was being super massively successful with the dull realities. They seemed like they were great. Yeah. So now I've tried a proton physics in that gap. I don't. Yeah. It's just, I think when there's a bit more friction and a little less oil down the lane, I think the proton physics is better. Like, I think it's more in play, so to speak. I don't think it's necessarily better than the reality. I think it's just better than the proton physics when they're a little tighter down the lane.
As much as they've hooked lately, there hasn't been a need for a lot of top end balls. For as much as I like the gem and the reality in those balls, they didn't get a lot of play this year at all. Between you more oil and older surfaces.
100%, I do feel like the reality matches up way better for more people on tour than the proton physics does, just because there's that much more oil down the back of the pattern. And I think the reality handles that better.
Tries to hook a little more down lane, gives them a little more shape. So, real quick, Jeremy says some wear and tear. That depends on where that wear and tear is happening. But the general idea is that you move the pitch towards where the wear and tear is coming from. So generally, yes, is the answer to that question, but it does depend on where it's happening. So, what is it? Infinite physics, so super quick on the back end of the fresh house. Yes, for sure, and that's way closer to what Stu has it at. I even have one at 1,000, depending on how speed dominant you are. It's still, because that cover's pretty clean. 1,000 doesn't make that ball super slow. It just
and don't be afraid to try and just roll it a little more. Like, just practice on just trying to get you roll a little bit more forward, and I think you'll see it like be a little smoother. I feel like the physics, this infinite physics, you can really change the reaction with your release a little bit.
Thank you. Here's a decent question. The difference between React to Shine and Extra Shine.
Fun story. I didn't know this. React to Shine is actually a cleaner and polish, and Extra Shine is just a polish.
Say that again.
React to Shine,
yes,
is cleaner and polish together. Extra Shine is just polish.
There you go.
I thought, and I've had this conversation with head office, and maybe I've got this wrong again, but I was under the impression that React to Shine was polish and Extra Shine was shinier polish. That is not the case.
Yeah. So, that's news.
You could have just read the marketing material, was what I got told. And I was like, that's true.
Your top 5 two-handed bowlers. Belmo's obviously number 1. Simo's number 2.
I don't know. I've got Belmo, Simo, Jesper, Kyle, and one other.
I'm gonna and Ryan is that's just a personal favorite. Not that I think he's the top 5. You just Chris Vi late has moved into that category.
Chris Vi, yeah.
Well, he's moved in and then back out of it, and then then the Lucy looked like he was back in it again. So
yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I think the top 2 or 3 are pretty solid, and then after that, it bounces around year to year a little bit more. Kyle's made plenty of case to be in that grouping as well.
Reactor gloss is a new thing that they're using at the plant. I don't know as yet whether that's going to be a polish that gets released to the to the world. Let's quickly we can quickly have a look at
as the burn on the PVA 50 is that when too many CPAP machines are plugging the same outlet. That's funny. It's not bad.
No, wrong one. Sorry. I'm having a train wreck here. Don't worry.
Scooby says, will the two-handers be able to physically throw it two-handed at the age of 50? I think so. I don't think it's any harder to do that than it is throwing it one-handed, to be honest.
So here's you using the Supernova on the house shot. If you want to listen to Chris chatting about this in kind of live, check out the YouTube page. It's got 20,000 people have watched it. So join the masses.
Yeah, live game and a little bit of everything. No spare ball there, obviously. Just throwing a Nova to spare.
So this was on a house shot.
It is. And I, to be honest, this is a 30-year-old HPL surface. So I expected it to really be lazy and to not look very good at all. And you can see I'm not really trying to get around it. I'm not having to manipulate it much. I'm rolling it. And it still has more shape down lane than say the Gem and some of those other bigger balls for me, which was, an early, that's pretty positive. I was pretty surprised. I expected to flat 10 and then have to manipulate it. And you're going to watch me go through a full game like I would and talk about the moves, but I was able to pretty much stay up the back of it all the time. I eventually get around, I think, on this video a little bit, see what it looks like shape-wise, and it just kept hooking when I did. But
yeah, definitely got around that one more. This is actually more watching you bowl this. This is more how I would bowl a house shot rather than how you would bowl it. Using the bigger ball and making it continue and kind of blending out the wet dry like a lot, being more in the oil. And it was just interesting that you found a ball in this Supernova that you could do that with, because I know we've had conversations about it in the past, and you're just like, you're telling me that I'm just, way more, I've got way more rotation. That's why I could do it. But it was nice to see you find an option.
Yeah, and maybe I just haven't been looking at the right things. And the house shot has changed slightly here, but as you'll see in the next video we have, I did the night road on the same day. And yeah, this is a nice finish. I think I went 4-9 and then I missed a spare.
Don't shoot your spares, kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I say, I feel like I don't necessarily get on 100% well with that Nova weight block. And thankfully for me, I represent brands that have a lot of options for me. So I'm not kind of hamstrung into having to, make that ball fit the gap. I can use a reality. I could use a proton physics, the infinite physics, like the X3. Like there's a bunch of balls still available that I could use and not worry about it, because I know that you've been really liking that shiny Nova.
Yeah, on the house shot.
The
It
Nova
can be really
for me,
slow though too.
yeah,
Huh?
the Nova for me was just, it felt like it was always so early, and then but the cover wasn't that strong, like relatively speaking. So I don't know. Maybe for me, maybe the Supernova isn't the one for me. But like I say, the Nova wasn't. So if you like the Nova, I think that the Supernova is going to be a really great option off it. Like, a step up, definitely. Is that kind of what you and Ryan have been seeing? I know that you two have used the Nova way more than I have.
Yeah, I mean, that's his house shot killer. That's his North Rock house shot killer. It lets him stay a little straighter because the slower cover doesn't change directions in the front because North Rock breaks down so fast. And then it doesn't come off the dry as hard. And so it just blends easier, and the shine lets you get through the front. It does need some friction for it to be useful. But yeah, it's come into play. Ryan actually used it in the Louisville sweeper the whole time. But the ability to throw it 22 miles an hour is somewhat of an advantage over the rest of us.
And somewhat of a niche skill set.
Yeah, that's not one that's easy to compare to. Answering this question here by Travis, I think it is in between if the dark coat is shiny. For us right now, the Infinite is kind of in place of that. But if you keep the dark coat shiny and the Infinite with a little bit of surface on it, I think that's a nice three ball.
Yeah, I'm almost even thinking about touching the surface on my dark code to try and get it more in play. So even if it gets a little close to the Pro for the Infinite and have a weaker layout on the dark code, I wouldn't. I think that the Supernova is way stronger than the original lock, but way smoother. The original lock was really, for me, it was pretty angular. I think the original lock was way closer to the infinite physics than the Supernova. I believe the original lock was hybrid, but I'm not 100% sure on that one. But yeah, the lock was one I liked. I felt like you could throw it really hard because it was really responsive. You didn't throw it really hard because it picked up early, if that kind of makes sense. Like you could really throw it to a spot and watch it hook off it. And I think that the infinite physics is way closer to
that. Yeah, I think the reality is, yeah, I think the Supernova is closer to the reality than the Proton. Yeah, the Proton steps away from it a little bit from that standpoint, just because the Proton's stronger in oil, I believe, than probably with.
Yeah, I do feel like if we did the blind Coke Pepsi, off the wall, if we blindfolded ourselves on the reaction, so to speak, or all the balls were the same color, I'm not sure you'd see as big a difference. Like it's for me, it's just hard to. I feel like they all fit in somewhat of a similar gap in your bag, and it's just which one you look kind of like shape wise.
You're right.
I don't think you really necessarily you definitely wouldn't carry all three of those balls. You'd have to be taking a lot of balls to need all three of those.
Yeah, probably so.
Chris sees this as pretty much a benchmark ball.
Yeah, it's in that
phase 2.
Yeah, it's in that phase 2 range. You got phase 2 Zen, possibly Cosmos, and Zen Soul, and you're kind of picking 2 at most out of that group, I think.
Eric, honestly, unintentionally might have won quote of the day. The only reason he hasn't is because he's asked it before.
Yeah.
I mean, you could almost replace the Columbia Duke with anything. I mean, like I would be looking at like an HP2 ball or a burner.
Yeah,
Like,
burner pearl.
yeah, burner
Probably the
pearl,
closest.
hyped pearl, something down the low end. The Hague. Hey. I'm not normally a person who throws these. What is the must-have ball from any of the three companies to jump in with? The ones that we like right now are definitely the Infinite Physics. Zen is like a pretty much big staple for most people. Reality, another one that like is we have no problem recommending. I would say Infinite Physics, the Zen, and then from the Rotogrip side, I feel like the Gem gives you something that is different, like that you don't necessarily have. They're the balls that I think are the ones that are like industry leading, I guess.
Yeah. It sounds right. Just curious, what did SLS say when he struck in the 10th? When we were bowling him, he had to strike out to make me. They were slow, and so I went ahead and went. I left a 2-pin, and he needed to strike out to make me make the spare. And he struck and said, "Yeah, make him make it." And I just laughed, coming from the guy who doesn't have a spare ball, and so he hooks it everything on the lane. 7 pins, 4 pins, 2 pins, and everything in between.
Which on the house shot makes a lot of sense. The 247 hooking at him on the house shot, you can throw the same shot and make all three of them. But
he hooks at the 10 pin too, though, because he doesn't have a spare ball. So
is the Supernova Snowman worthy? Yeah, I mean it's still going to go straight, but yeah. Yeah.
I don't know who does the ball reviews. So far, I've seen a Night Road that doesn't hook, and then this sometimes it hooks and sometimes it would skid. My guess is it probably hooked early, more so than.
Yeah, I 100% would suggest that they were probably bowling on a lane that didn't have enough oil, or they had too much surface for their style. Would have been my. Generally, if you see that and it doesn't really make sense, then I would think that you probably need more polish. It used to be that you would always need more surface, but now the lane surfaces provide enough surface. All right. This seems like this could take a minute. Wood Lane shot to hell. They've been standing resurfacing once in 12 years. Open with a 640, with the last game of 247, throwing the clear plastic storm spare. Part 2. I have upper 220 last season. The track is about all that's playable and it hooks at 40 feet. Which ball would you suggest? Hustle Wine, Burner, or start my own league in the parking lot? Whoa, fried. Pun intended. Lanes and you.
Hustle Wine is the cleanest of the balls.
I personally don't like pearl balls that much on wood. I like shinier shinier solid balls on wood. So for me, a Hustle Camo might be a better option if you're going in the Hustle Rhine.
Burner Solid.
Burner Solid, if you could get hold of one. It's been discontinued. I just find that on wood, you've kind of got to embrace what's there. You've kind of got to play a little bit of the earlier reaction just because of what it is.
Maybe Hype Solid?
Yeah, Hype Solid. Definitely needs some polish on it, though, because that comes pretty dull.
Yes,
but that is what I see on wood. I think that most times you have a little more success with shinier, solid balls than you do with really fast response pearl balls.
Along the same lines here, same types of balls. As far as layouts, make sure that your pins are a little further away, 5, 5.5, maybe even 6.
Surface.
The 130 drill doesn't work when you're really rev dominant. So, I'm not saying that's your deal. I'm just saying I have seen that be a problem in some places.
100%. And like I say, surface. Like take your surfaces up 4000 with water or just polish. Like they're your friends on those. Right. Let's do a cut and we will move over to the night road. So let me quickly pull up Chris's video of the night road. Or slowly pull it up. Either way.
Ironically, that's what I was doing just a second ago. I was sending another message to Emily and hoping there's some good news about the Weber Cup, but we haven't seen much here as of late. Found that Nova doesn't like steep angles. Yeah, that's probably pretty correct. Super Nega a little bit, but not. It's better than Nova, but that's still not going to be his strength.
What the fuck? I've actually just pulled up the wrong thing. There we go.
Here we go. The same type of review. This is the same lane 32 at AMF Louisville, and we start off with a 4.9.
One quick thing, of course, with the road weight block, the high road weight block, there's a significantly different weight block for me than for Chris. Chris is using the 15, so that's the one that most of you will see, the 257046. I am in the 252058 weight block in 16. So just so you guys are aware, like some of the things we say, we might slightly disagree with those.
Yeah, 16. It's why neither one of us threw a lot of high roads actually before when I was 16 as well. So it didn't. There's such a stronger ball. It didn't fit. It was fine. It just wasn't the same ball as it was for everyone else. Was it in what was the Entourage? There was a version of it in 16 that was way closer. A Blue Pearl there for a little bit. That was okay, but not great. So
yeah, like for me, the high road looks pretty good for me on thin long patterns.
Yeah,
is when it's looked its best. But this night road was a bit different. So
yeah, this review is here. This is like, I mean, I couldn't believe how much this ball hooked after the same thing I heard from everybody else. Hey, this ball is a hook. It goes straight. It's a little cleaner. At the end of this review, I throw it against a Wolverine Dark Moss, and it's a couple boards less than a Wolverine, but it's like 3 feet longer and a little bit sharper. So I thought it had a nice fit in there. When I bowled the sweeper there, I ended up using it the last 3 games again. And for a ball I didn't expect to actually be in my bag based off of the reviews I saw earlier, I use it in long view as well. And I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, was yours shiny at this point?
It had 3,000 on it.
So you went back to pretty close to the box finish.
Yeah, I went basically. Yeah, it would be pretty close to a version of box finish there.
Not that I'd like admitting when I was wrong. But it does really seem that Storm weren't necessarily blowing smoke up people's ass when they said that they were going to leave these balls with the finish that they kept, the ones that were designed for 4K fast, they were leaving them there. Because like I said, I didn't really like the 4K fast that much on the original balls, but having thrown this with the 4K fast finish on it, again, because people were complaining a little bit about what it was doing, I love this ball. And I'm actually going to go ahead and drill the green one, the Wolverine Dark Moss. I'm going to drill it with the same layout and leave the finish on it, because the first Dark Moss I drilled, I knew better, because why wouldn't I? So I shined it and it was okay, but it wasn't as okay as this night road's been for me. So I think that I'm going to take a little bit of stock into what they were saying about the covers were kind of designed for.
Yeah, the original finish is designed for different things. I'm with you on that. I think some of the ones they designed that way on purpose, that were meant to be polished are better polished, and then the ones that they actually made to be smooth but not polished have looked better as well. So, why is RGM diff so different? And that's because there's no inner core in the high roads, which is the difference between that and basically every other ball. The companies all went to having a filler material around the core, and then they just pour a thin cover stock around the outside. High roads have been around long enough that it was something they did before the cost savings. And when you do that, then the core is the same size whether it's 15 or 16. Or
You have to find a way.
You have to change the weight of the core to match that up. And when you change the weight of that core with the relative same shape, the RGs and different differentials change.
See, Danny, I was just gonna pass on that one. I was just gonna go.
Yeah,
that's a question for people who are more intelligent than me. And then somebody who was more intelligent than me answered it, so we were all good.
Yeah, what they do is they change the weight of the fillers that go around that 7 inch 7 by 7.7 inch, I think is what it is. It's kind of an industry standard. And the ball is 9, so you have an inch and a half of cover stock basically. But
all right, Night Road.
So Night Road, we're over at Highland this time. They've actually got a fairly slick house shot now. It's 42 feet. That was a nice start. Like I say, for me, this ball is... I was prepared not to like this one, and I love it. I feel like, for me, it's the ball that I can really get left and circle the lane with it, but with predictability. Whereas the High Road Pearl, for me, is a little too squirty these days. I think that this Rex cover being a little stronger, and who knew? I actually love Rex cover, it seems, because this one's awesome, and the Infinite Physics, same cover, is fantastic. It's made me realize that I'm probably need to figure out how to get the dark code back in my life. See, even the camera thought that one was a strike.
What do y'all think about putting a low rev speed dominant bowler in a night row with 4x4? Night row is going to be pretty long. They're going to have to hook quite a bit for that ball for a speed dominant player. But a strong drilling like that is probably the one chance you have. But to be honest, there's probably better clean balls that'll work. Even a shiny Infinite Physics for a speed dominant player is probably close. So,
but the main thing for me when I used this Night Road in Longview was I just couldn't believe how continuous it was.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas usually when you get a ball kind of like that in those gaps, they're usually pretty quick, and continuous isn't necessarily the same. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Whereas for me, that's why I like the Crossroad. The Crossroad was a hybrid cover. It probably didn't hurt that it was one color either. And it just felt like it was like I could make it hook as much as I wanted with speed. So if I wanted to hook more, I just threw it slower. And because it was so continuous, it came around the corner. That was one of the things that I actually struggled with the original Wolverine. It was so responsive that if I threw it slower, it just hooked early because it just responded earlier to the friction.
Right.
Whereas this Night Road, really, to me, it's just like if I want it to go straighter, I just throw it a bit firmer. Like it's really continuous motion. I like I say, I've been really impressed with it. I did a pretty easy, simple kind of layout. Like a 5.5 inch pin, 4.5 inch mass bias, and a 3 inch buffer. Yeah. See, the thing is Brian bowled with the lane guy, and Brian hasn't bowled 1070 the first 2 weeks combined. So the lane guy's probably going to try anything he can to get Brian in play. Sorry, not sorry. Good question. The Cosmos is definitely earlier. It definitely stronger overall, but doesn't like, to me, stronger overall is always earlier. And if there was more oil on the lane, that would hook and the night road wouldn't. But once the lanes get a little drier, because of how much more responsive the night road is, you can really keep moving left with the night road, whereas you can't really do that so much with the Cosmos. I'm actually I used that combo a little bit in Longview. I needed to rotate the Cosmos a little more to use it. Shiny Cosmos, I could kind of make it come around the corner. And then the night road, I could kind of use more of a forward roll, more like Chris, even though I was left, just because it was so much more angular.
Like this question.
No.
Yeah, probably not. I don't see myself going to 14. But hey,
the point is Bill wants to kill himself at the minute, relatively speaking, and he's still ahead of me.
Mm-hmm.
So Bill dominating with 14, 15, or 12 probably isn't going to influence what I do because, well, he's just making better shots. It's not because of the weight.
Opinion of Lost UC3. I wasn't a fan myself, but
I just think it makes it smooth. It makes it feel like a smooth reactive ball at that point.
Yeah, and there's a spot for that. I've seen some people do it. Ryan had polish on his, but I don't see him using it much.
Like for me personally, the only reason I'd polish a UC3 to use it would be if there was like a bounty, like, you know, if you won with the UC3, you would get more money. Like for me, I found the UC3 marginally better shiny than dull because I could use it on more things, but I put it into a gap that there was so many balls that I could use that it kind of become pointless. I wasn't using it for its purpose then. I think that's the best way of explaining it for me. Like you just make it just another ball. Although I did get my ass handed to me by a UC3 this weekend. Trey Sledge, shout out, 773, I think it was, with the kind of lane shined UC3 on the burn. Didn't see that coming.
When do you think your thing has too many games on it? So far, I've not seen. In general, the urethanes hold up. They seem to get a little better with time. Maybe you have to put a little more surface back on them again. But since the general consensus is now they get a little softer as they go, they seem to be a little better as you keep playing with them.
Mike makes a pretty good point here. Talking about Bill O'Neill throwing 14. If that was the case, they'd be two-handed like Belmont and Simon.
Yeah, there you
go. So nobody's really entertained me. I'm kind of disappointed. Like, I don't feel like anybody's come out with anything that's like ball worthy. And I'm not even doing like the clickbaity thing. I just haven't really laughed at a comment today. I usually do. Like we might have to roll this to the next episode. Like I don't know, Chris. Am I being unfair here? I don't feel like
the swipe about the CPAPs wasn't bad, but the UC2, I like the UC2. It's good. As the infinite physics became more prominent, the slot where I used that just kind of went away. Between the infinite physics and the X2, it just kind of covered everything up.
Look at that. Alan's actually famous for being part of the show.
Well, he has to be famous for something. So that's where I preferred the UC3, if at all. So
to be fair. Yeah, I guess. But the idea was to make me laugh and I'd send you a ball.
Wow. I didn't realize I haven't gone back and looked. Do I miss a spare in all the videos?
Again, to be fair, he didn't miss one in the one with the night road. Usually he strikes. He usually strikes every shot. So, you know.
I mean, to be fair, I'm completely gassed at the end of that. Try bowling a game in 4.5 minutes.
Yeah, I'd wish he'd slow down. I can get more commercials in it.
Well, you can cut it anywhere you want.
Danny, a regular on the show, says, is your outer space layout working yet?
I haven't got the new balls haven't showed up, so I haven't had a chance to throw one up there. But yeah, for those of you who weren't watching the other day, we talked about the old Omegas back in the day, and all they had was a clock, and it was A and E. But that was the consensus at the time, was that A and E worked. There was no mass bias markings. There was barely a pin marking.
Yeah.
And they were all kind of CG in, pin in balls as well, which made it, who knows where the mass bias actually was. I mean, in theory, it was probably down by E, but we don't actually know. I would have to ask Brian Purcell. He's probably the guy that would know. But yeah, no, so I was going to try one and throw the mass bias up, basically on the opposite end of where I would, and see what it looks like. Just for fun.
I mean, love he is digging in here. And to be fair, try bowling gave him 4.5 minutes while you're eligible for the senior citizen tour.
All right. All right.
How does the Night Road compare to the Dark Moss? That would be a you question.
Yes, I felt like the Night Road was about 2 boards less, but it went about 3 to 4 feet further and then made it up on the back end. So a little sharper and a little longer, but less overall. So it would fit below the Wolverine. Somebody
asked about a UC2. I've actually decided I'm going to put the UC2 back in my life. I was bowling so bad for so long. It felt like that I didn't really know where any of the balls fit, and I'd had success with that one. I just stopped using it. So I think I might get that one back into the rotation, because that one was pretty useful for me when I was, bowling well. Sorry.
There you go. Here's a funny one for you, Stu. I was watching Walter Ray pass videos and saw where he was bowling against you, and you all both got to like 4 strikes each, and every time you got a strike, you kept looking at him, I guess, to see if he was acting impressed yet. He kept walking around. That was probably a lightning strikes, I guess.
Yeah, and I had
where you had not only the front 4, but the next 4 after that, and then the next 4 after that.
Well, I had the front 10 followed by the front 12.
That's Walter missed in the second frame and was shut out of the 2-game match.
Yeah. I've actually drilled a ball upside down for someone who had very low speed. It worked really well for them because it tamed the ball down a lot. So there you go. Which ball was it? Was it an asymmetrical ball? I'm interested.
Yeah.
Because I know Chris Prather drilled, I think it was a Zen Master upside down, but I don't really think that's going to have much effect.
Good friend of the show, and he was out there with Louis Phil on Monday night for the sweeper. Things are going well, I hope. But this man put on a run a summer ago with a Hustle Inc. and where he shot 300 4 weeks in a row, I believe it was. And he just put a little domination on him. So
then side with motive.
Well, there's that. There you go. Yeah, if I ever made it, I lost I was in a tiebreaker. I lost the tiebreaker to be on it this year. Yeah, you wouldn't think though 52 would be the qualifier to getting into the Strike Derby. So, which was worse, the Omega or the white AMF XS by a mile? The Omega was actually decent.
I have to disagree. The white XS banged for me, but the point is I wasn't very good, and I was very speed dominant, and I wore a wrist support, and the XS was awesome. The only problem was you went to a place that was dirty. Woo! You suddenly had the black XS.
I'll never forget when the senior tour was back. It was still on TV then, and the first week it came out, they offered a big enough incentive that all 5 guys threw it on the show. It was a 5-figure bonus each, and so they were all equally disadvantaged. They all equally shot 15 to 25 pins below what they averaged to make the show,
and they all went out happy.
Yeah, and they all had bowling balls that looked like soccer balls by the end because they had so many black marks on them by the end. So it was. That's what I remember about that. It was the best worst commercial I've ever seen. So symmetrical. All right.
Did an old honey.
Oh, okay.
To be fair, Bowman Challenge recommended inverted asymmetrical symmetrical balls. You're late. Yeah, I mean, shock. Hank was ahead of the time of me and Chris. I mean, no way.
The Nova, yeah, is definitely a different ball than that. It's a much slower, earlier rolling smooth ball. You could have a shiny Nova as well. Somebody asked about the Supernova and shining the Nova. Yes, I would do that to make them, to separate them with an infinite physics in between them, actually. None of my it hasn't gotten here yet. It gets here Saturday, I believe, and I'll be on vacation then, so it's going to be a minute before I get them drilled.
I'd take a Hustle Windell.
Yeah, well, Norm led it, but Norm did it by just striking every shot. He was all in on quality over quantity, which actually turned out to be okay.
He's got his Barnzy Youth tournament.
Yeah, actually, yeah, we're in our 16th year of that one, so it's not really a memorial. I think you have to die actually to have a memorial tournament. To be honest, pretty sure that's how it works.
I'm gonna send Chris a ball. Oh shit.
Supernova is going to be quicker than the Nova.
Oh yeah, okay.
I think so.
So that makes it quicker and stronger, which is an uncommon.
Yeah, it is a little unusual, but I think the Nova is fairly slow for me. I thought it was extremely slow, as a matter of fact. I hope they never.
They're remaking everything else up there.
It never should have been allowed to begin with. It's absurd that it was. It's illegal in every way it can be illegal. USBC says, hey, you have to sand the whole ball, but you're allowed to make two different surfaces? Get the...
The only reason why nobody cared was because it was awful.
Yeah. That's the same thing like guys been throwing two fingers early on. When nobody won, nobody cared. Yeah. And then
Velma went and ruined it for everybody.
Yeah, if they did whatever REX in the or reactor in the front and NEX in the back or some version of whatever, that would be different.
The thing is I actually struck a bunch with a double helix, the red one, and it was mainly because the difference between the two covers wasn't as drastic. So if it didn't make it the set, it was whatever. It just looked cool. But the problem was with the helix, the reactive portion was really responsive, and the yellow portion was like a fucking plastic ball. So if you didn't get it off that yellow portion quick enough, it never hooked.
Well, it's urethane. The urethane was in the track. So you made something that hooked earlier than the reactive and then tried to make it come off of it later.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think any part of that yellow portion was in any way useful.
Yeah.
Like it definitely didn't hook earlier. It just didn't hook at all. It was like hitting black ice hitting that section. Anyway.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Or symmetrical phase 2 or solid. Like for me, if you're going to stay with quicker balls, I'd move to like say a Zen off the reality check. If you're already making a small move, the dark code, if you're experiencing a lot, depending on which center you're bowling in, Mike, if there's a lot of oil in the middle, I would actually ball up a little bit and move further left. Because once you get away from that section that's burnt in the front, you can maybe get into the oil more and maybe be able to hook it a little bit. And that's where your phase 2 might give you a chance. So,
what did one romantic pin to say to the other? Let's never split.
Can I think you spent fucking awful wrong. That's not spelled Corny.
So one overseas SBI ball, and since your dad frequently is featured on our show, he probably knows.
He actually doesn't partake that much in those balls because he's only got a small shop and he doesn't want to end up being kind of stuck with them. I keep telling him he should, and then just eBay the bastards. But this is pretty amazing, right? If you're into the overseas ball market and having something that other people don't have, check this out. And I only saw this the other day because I was setting up links. Let me just pull up the page first. Right. If you want to realize that you don't know any of the balls that like get released or have any idea, check this out. So we're on Bowler's Mart, right? Ghost Lock, Pure Physics, Ultimate Phase, Pink IQ Tour, Marvel Black, Super Lock.
So this is
Crucial Phase.
So if you want to find out what's out in the market, go to bowlersmart.com.
Yeah. Crystal Physics.
This is where all the pictures come from that you see online.
Yeah, so I'm like, it's unbelievable. And then on the Rotogrip side, I think they have a few. Yeah. This is the ball that they were talking about, Chris. It's an X2 Squad.
Yeah.
Idle Splash.
There is a reality. I think there's a reality X12 as well. I saw it on the rack last week during the sweeper at Louisville. The guy on my pair, somebody I had not met before, nice guy, had a ball from Global that I had never seen, heard, or it looked like a haywire color-wise.
Oh, yeah. So here it is. There's a Zen Karma that looks exactly the same color as the UC2.
There you go.
Pretty. And if it's got the UC2 cover on it, I bet that thing bangs. It's actually solid. It doesn't look solid in that picture, but it's solid. Okay. According to their, I mean, they might have the wrong sheet up. But anyway, so if you ever wanted to see all the things you're missing out on, bowlersmart.com. Now, there's quite the premium on some of those balls.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. Jeremy, thoughts on WSOB having a PTQ versus letting him? Of course, I think there should be a PTQ for a major tournament like that. We're down to one squad now, which is the primary reason of going that, because we had such disparity between A squad and B squad. It's getting relatively impossible to keep it fair in these, one block tournaments, daily tournaments. So pretty much the only fair way, and then the only fair way after that is basically just have a PTQ so that everybody has an opportunity to enter. But
no, we're rolling it over unless there's a extremely funny post in the last 5 minutes that we're going to be on. Yeah, I'm rolling it over to the next show.
I never threw. You
guys have disappointed me.
Never threw a virtual energy. Cole says, hustle 3 TP.
Yeah.
5 weeks of 300s, 8 300s. Yeah. And he was healthy. But he was healthy for 2 years after that, too.
I guess he's talking about the Blue Omega.
Oh, yeah. I mean, none of us knew. I mean, I don't think even people designed. We just didn't understand much about asymmetry then.
No, there isn't a reality strike. They might release one just because I'm an idiot to troll me.
He's talking about the Helix here. Yes, that proved that Walter, it may be one of his signature wins. He's actually won with plastic, urethane, both urethane and reactive. He might even win with a rubber ball at some point. It's absurd how many different things he's won with. But yeah, the fact that he can win with that.
I guess you probably have. Send me a message on Facebook. I'll send you something.
Cody says he was watching Team High Sports to see what cover core combos that are being experimented look like. Zero parallax. All right, there you go. Waiting for the Spectre Sapphire to come stateside.
They actually did have a Spectre on that list on Bowler's Mart. I saw that the other day.
And there's
more,
he's the first thing to say that.
There's more O's.
Yeah. Could have swirled the two colors. Yeah, the point was to put on the track. Like the problem for me was my pins were 5, 5.5. Actually, they're more than 5.5 and 6 back then. And the stripe was set up to be basically for 3.5, 4-inch drills. And so I couldn't even keep it on that stripe very long anyway. But yeah, it was bad. What advice do you give bowlers that are averaging 230 and above in leagues that think they are not good enough to bowl with the pros and are afraid to give it a shot? Go bowl regional.
Yeah, bowl regional, bowl summer sport leagues. A lot of places run summer sport leagues.
Yeah. Yeah, I think summer regionals, I mean, you get a real good idea what it's like in a summer regional because there's enough of the touring guys that go on bowl that you get a small idea of what the field will look like, or at least what the top scores might look like, and but still have way more opportunity to cash and
yeah, I do think that non-champs regionals aren't a bad place to start either.
That's true. You get the patterns and a much better opportunity to make money because 1 in 3 versus most amateur tournaments are 1 in 8, 1 in 10. Since international balls are UFC approved, they allowed Masters? Yes, they are, as well as the US Open. If so, would it be allowed to be used on the show? Because it's their show, yes, they're also allowed to. And if their balls are on a USB non-approved list, but the PBA approved list, which has never been a case until this year, the same also holds true. You cannot throw them if they're not USB-C.
Yeah.
So they're trying to rules.
Thanks for showing up, guys. It's been a good one. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the game tonight. Should be a fun one. And football's back. League bowling's back. Tournaments are hotting up, especially in the Texas area. There is a huge event in El Paso this weekend. It's a bit of a hike, but 5,000 on top. So, yeah, keep up the good work. There is an event in Phoenix paying 10. Paying 10,000 on top. So keep an eye out for that one. And we will see you next week.
All right. I'll be coming to you probably from Oregon. So until next time, when you get an opportunity and you have a choice, please support the sponsors that support us. Storm, Rotogrip, Manor Global, Coolwick, Bowlers Mart, Pinnacle GPS, Fire Lake Bowling Center, Lightning Strikes, and of course, Platinum Forward. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. God bless.
See you later.